So the first question I wanted to ask you is, what is the most dangerous time for students to be walking around downtown or on campus?
Dangerous time. I mean, I think if you're looking at that, probably what we've seen here on campus is, probably your nighttime. I wouldn't say necessarily dark is a time that I would contribute to it. I would say when the bars release, because it allows a lot of people that have been indulging all out at the same time into a mass area that is just alcohol-induced crimes can escalate, right? And so I would base, our perception on when it would be dangerous is those times. You have more people out and about. There's more people driving that unfortunately are probably making poor choices with drinking and driving. So that makes it dangerous on the roads to be a pedestrian, just being another driver and that kind of stuff. So that's where, I would put more of my emphasis on.
And I wanted to ask, what are some of the best methods that you recommend at UNLPD for students to stay safe while walking on campus during those rougher hours of the day?
Right. I think situational awareness can go a long way. We're a society now that we have our phone right in front of us. We're looking at it, and we have earbuds in, and that takes us away from what could be happening in the environment. So, our recommendation would be, if you are going to make a phone call, maybe put it on speaker so you can hear other things and don't use your earbuds. And then also just be aware, because if you are a perpetrator of crime, are you going to try to go up and either take a purse, attack somebody that's making eye contact, that's staring you down, versus someone that's totally aloof and just observed into their own little world and they're not paying attention to what's going on? Are they going to get a good description of you if you ran by and snatch them, versus someone that's making eye contact and sees them coming from a ways, right?
So would you kind of say then having that awareness can prevent a lot of crimes for students?
Absolutely. Like if a perpetrator's walking down the street and they see someone that's making eye contact and you see them, maybe you cross the street because you're like, this is making me uncomfortable. And if they cross the street too, that would be a clue that something more nefarious could be going on, right? And so that's something that we always tell people, of like just being aware of your surroundings, who's walking near me, who's walking with me. The buddy system's always a great thing to do. If you're going to walk across campus, having a buddy either on the phone with you that you can talk to, or that's just there physically with you, and walking in a pair or a group is always a good idea.
Definitely. And I wanted to ask, in your opinion, what are the best items students can carry on them for like safety? I know a lot of students in our survey said they use like pepper spray, or they just do the kind of, everyone knows, put the key between your knuckles. But is there one that you kind of recommend, or is it kind of depending on situation?
Any kind of distractant or something that you can carry. I know there's different lights that they make that are really bright that you could try to in a short term blind somebody with. Pepper spray is never a bad thing to have. I've heard of the keys thing. Those are all good tools to have. But I think also the point comes to, we've also seen the people that have a key ring that has the pepper spray on it, and where is it? It's in your backpack, or it's on that giant key ring that you're carrying, and how quickly could you get to it to use it? So I think part of it is knowing that you have it, and then mentally running through, how would I get to it, or how am I carrying it? If I'm walking at night and I do have to be by myself, is it still just sitting in my backpack or on that giant key ring that it's going to be hard for me to get with? Or do I actually have it in my hand so I could use it if I'm needed, right, or I need to?
So would you recommend then for students to, if they have an item like pepper spray, instead of keeping it on a key ring or in their backpack, to consciously take it off and keep it on them the whole time they're walking at night?
I think it wouldn't hurt, because again, if you need it, you want to have it at the ready, right? And it's not going to do you any good if someone comes up and tries to take your purse or physically attack you if it's in your backpack, right? I mean, the likelihood that you get to that tool when you would need it is very nil, right? And so, yeah, that would be something, if you're going to have it, it needs to be at the ready if you're walking with it.
Definitely, yeah. And, I was then kind of just curious about locations on campus and near campus that at nighttime you feel like students should avoid or kind of steer clear from, and I was wondering what those locations might be.
I don't know if we have anything specific on campus that we've seen or been able to dig through data and be like, hey, this is a hot spot for us. Because I think if we had that, we would have different patrol methods in place. So for us, that corridor between downtown and campus is something that we patrol more at night, not specifically because there are more crimes there, but because we know the pedestrian traffic travels that corridor and there could be issues, but we don't have any data that suggests that like this is a high crime, high safety issue area. We just know that's where the people are.
And when you say that corridor there, is like what streets kind of would you be talking about? Is that like Q?
I mean, if you want to center it like 14th and R south towards downtown, right? 14th Street is a big thoroughfare for the pedestrian traffic. And then, Centennial Mall, 16th Street is traveled some, but some of that area that just leads from the high traffic downtown area into campus.
Definitely, yeah. And I was then kind of going to switch over to how you were saying patrol patterns. So for the nighttime, you said that you kind of put more patrol in that area down where there's like more pedestrians. What days do you kind of all do that on? Is that like throughout the whole week, or is that kind of more for weekends and days like that?
No, I think it's just throughout. That's just our patrol rhythm because we know that's where the people, and I don't know if it matters which day of the week that for us, I know there's more traffic down there on the weekends because that's when the bars are more patroned. But for us, I don't think it really changes when, we have, because our officers understand that at night there could be DUI issues. So they're patrolling for cars without lights, wrong ways on one ways, that kind of safety driven stuff of there could be issues with pedestrians and vehicles. So they're out there trying to enforce that. Then you also see some of your alcohol involved assaults and different things that happen. And so we're just trying to be in that area a little bit more, and I don't know if it matters on day of the week for us.
Yeah, and I was also just kind of curious then, what other things do UNLPD do during those kind of harder hours at night to better protect students besides just patrolling those more populated areas?
Yeah. I mean, we're always trying to be out in different patrol methods on bike, on foot, in the car, and just in those heavily utilized areas that people are using. We also offer the safety walk here, the Husker Safe Walk, which if you did study too late and now it's dark, you didn't have that plan, and now you're like, oh, I can't find my friend or can't phone a friend. We offer a safety walk here at the police department that we can get you from wherever your location to another point on campus, whether that's to your car or to your residence hall on campus. We do try to keep it to campus or something that's campus adjacent. Again, if you're somehow stuck here and you live at 56 and Old Cheney, we're not necessarily going to get you all the way home. There are other means for that. But again, from campus to campus location or campus adjacent, we can get you there.
And I looked into a little bit about the Husker Safe Walk yesterday, and I had seen, I believe, the Daily Nebraskan, we did an article in April that said around like 29 students, I believe, give or take, had used the program last spring. And I'm wondering, are those kind of statistics still carrying over to this current semester? Or is it roughly kind of the same usage?
I don't have that information. I don't know, but it sticks to pretty much about the same. We try to utilize it as much as we can and make sure that the students are aware of it, but sometimes you do talk to students that are like, I had no idea we had this service. But it is on our website. We do try to work with other publicities like Daily Nebraskan or UCOM to make sure that it's pushed out for students. But the more people that we can make feel safe on campus, the better. So anytime that we can get that to get utilized is great for us.
And also, I was kind of curious, I had seen in there it said that the officer that goes back with the student or like faculty member would provide like resources and like kind of just help them for a future reference for like walking at night, safety, stuff like that. So I was wondering, what are some of those things, I guess, that they're telling
It's
them?
kind of some of the stuff that we've talked about before, that situational awareness, because again, we are a police department and the safe walk can't be our only job, right? So on a Friday night, if you unfortunately, I guess it's not unfortunately, but if you studied late and you want us to come walk you from, Love Library to your car, and we are inundated with calls, it could be a while before we get to you, right? And so we definitely, when we have those opportunities to be able to educate people on these are some other means to be able to get you safely to your car, or because some people, they don't move their car because of parking, right? But if we could educate you that, did you know that after a certain time, if you have a Husker hang tag, you can park in closer parking lots to Love Library. And so it's one of those things of making sure that the student is aware of all the resources, other ways they can make themselves safe. Hey, if you have a friend, hey, you can move your car. These are some other resources on campus that can get you, or you can take into consideration to make sure that you are safe in your day-to-day operations.
And I kind of wanted to go back to the parking in closer parking lots. I know that I've done that before, but is that something UNLPD had worked with like UNL Parking to kind of get that just for the safety aspect of it? Is that kind of the main reason?
I don't know if that's a safety, and that's been something that has been in effect since I was in school here many moons ago. So I don't know where that originated from, and I would guess it's just because at the, once the main bulk of campus moves off after, that 5 o'clock time frame, why are we, making, you have to keep your car here? I mean, it just makes more sense of allowing people to park closer when they need to, but I don't know, and I can't say, confidently where that came from. That might be a parking question or someone that's been here even longer than me, so, but it does make sense, and it's just continued through the years, so.
But you would say that would go to kind of help with some of those safety issues, even if it wasn't initially.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, if you have to park off campus because you don't have a hang tag, or a parking lot that you normally use is full, but now it's after hours and I can get closer to Love Library, or maybe I do research in a lab and now I can park adjacent to it, that makes it a lot safer than me than having to stay at a remote satellite lot or just someplace different.
Definitely, and I just have one last question here for you. Outside of Husker Safe Walk and your patrolling and everything, what other programs has UNLPD implemented to help ease some of those student concerns about walking at night and being safe?
Yeah. One thing we do is so we partner with other entities on campus, and we do it's not a safe walk, but it's like a safe survey, if you will, that we bring other entities from facilities, landscaping, ASUN, student affairs, and we actually do a walk around campus, both city and east, and we try to time it where we do it like when the leaves are on the trees, when the leaves aren't on the trees, and see what kind of lighting could we change. Are there issues that have happened over time that will make one place apparent less safe than others, and we just do that environmental scan, so that way we can tell hey, over time this tree that we planted 3 years ago has now gotten way bigger, and now this area is way darker. Or we built this new building and we used to have lights here, now we don't, now this part over here is dark, right? And so we kind of continuously try to check on campus on what does it look like, because that's one of the biggest things that we get over time is complaints from students of, well, this area is dark, and they just antiquate dark with not safe. And so we try to do that stuff, and then also based on that, what kind of reports over time do we have on is there an area on campus that is apparently not safe at night or whatever, which we haven't been able to identify anything that sticks out. But again, we want to make sure we're doing our due diligence on having those scans. Are there stuff that comes out from campus or the students that are like, this area seems to be less safe than others, and then try to dig into that's where the why is coming from.
And I just had a really quick follow-up question then here. I remember from looking back in our survey we put out, we had about 210 respondents. About 45% of them either felt unsure or just didn't really feel comfortable around UNLPD officers. And I was kind of curious how that kind of makes you feel and what steps you might take to follow that to help make students safer. Of course, we're taking into accountability that they're actively taking this survey about walking at night, so they might have those bad experiences and everything like that.
Yeah.
However, still that statistic, I'm just kind of wondering how that kind of makes you feel and what you might go moving forward hearing that.
Yeah, I think it would need to more scrub the data on what was the contact related to and how that's based, because again, we want our officers to be very approachable, we want to be that, that conduit on campus that people run to when they think something's bad, let's go find UNLPD. So, it's one of those things that we would want to do some data scrubbing on where that came from, what factors played into it, and that kind of stuff, because we definitely would want to try to fix that, right? If someone has a poor experience with an officer, we want to try to be on the side of how can we make it better. Now again, sometimes we show up and there's the law enforcement side of it of you made a poor choice. I understand it's dark, it is whatever, but you're still underage or whatever it is, and here's a citation that results from that maybe. But we definitely want to make sure that the student populace feels comfortable with coming up to an officer and reporting whatever crime that came across. So we would definitely want to scrub that out a little bit more.
Definitely, yeah. And it just came to mind again. Sorry, I had another question. I had an interview with a student, and she has to park over in 13th and Avery, I believe. It's the one over by HSS, and she works at the Union at Starbucks till their closing shift. And she told me that she's had to walk back every single night when it's super dark out and it's kind of sketchy and everything. And she's thought about using the student safe walk. However, she just feels a little uneasy, I guess, about having like an officer, and she doesn't want to kind of make a big deal out of it. And she brought up to me the possibility of having hired students come and walk with the students to bring them there. I'm wondering if that's something UNLPD has ever considered.
I don't know if that's something that we've considered. I think that would have to be a partnership with student affairs on like what that looks like. And because again, is it utilized? Because we have this service, and from my perspective, it's probably underutilized by the students. Because it's not always an officer that'll do it either. So our CSO team that works in the residence halls are also part of the group that we utilize to do these, because we don't have lots of officers running around at night, so sometimes they get busy with calls, and we have somebody that calls in and says, hey, I'm here, I want to get to this place. We can utilize our CSO team to also help with that. So I think that would be something if the students brought that to ASUN or it came up another avenue, that would be something that we could consider. But I don't know if that would be just a UNLPD decision on like, we want to try to do this. Because we do offer something very similar, but again, I think if there is some other avenue where people are like, well, we could do this and it's a need, then let's look at it. We're always open to try to make it as safe as we can on campus.
Awesome.